MSI just commenced this AM, and we started with a very interesting series between flyquest and PSG. I want to talk about Game 2 of the series, which was one of the worst, messiest professional games I've watched in quite a while. Every aspect of the game, from draft to itemization to execution, was terrible, especially from PSG. Let's take a look. Let's start with the draft. FlyQuest first picked Lucian, which of course indicates Lucian Nami. This means that Fly is going to play toward mid-game power, trying to force fights around objectives like Rift Herald and 3rd and 4th Dragon fights. PSG immediately lose the game with a Callista Ashe rotation. Trying to outmatch Lucian Nami in lane is not a good game plan. It would have been much easier and better to outrange and outscale. Something like a Senna lane, Varus, or Ezreal would have been much better. Picking a full early game smash lane duo into Lucian Nami is super coin flip, and you have to play the lane perfect to get ahead. Even though Lucian doesn't scale well with how he's played in pro, he'll always scale well relative to a Callista. Horrible first rotation from PSG. FlyQuest second rotate Nami and Taliyah, which is bad. Obviously, the Nami comes in for Lucian, and I have one more point to make about this. Has anyone ever thought about picking Milio with Lucian instead of Nami? Milio is infinitely better, with a super OP kit in general, better scaling, and a straight up better buff for Lucian with the burn and range extension. Just a thought, something that pro teams don't have when it comes to Lucian. Anyways, the Taliyah is also bad because Azir and Corki are both available, which are in my opinion the two best mids available because of their range and scaling. Taliyah isn't a bad champ by any means, but I swear, every time I watch her, she just seems to do kinda nothing. Especially since all the pro mids just build her full defense for KDA preservation and job security. PSG finished first phase with Azir, which is one of the few good picks of the draft. It will beat Taliyah at every stage of the game, and it outranges Lucian, which will make it difficult for him to dash forward. PSG then are for Sejuani, which is fine. I don't really understand the priority on this champion since Maokai exists as just a better version, but it could be Lee Sin. FlyQuest round out with Maokai and Urgot. The Maokai is great. Super OP champ that never actually fell off in power, so I often wonder why he fell off in competitive play. The Urgot is not great because it's a blind pick and it's kinda just random in the comp, but it's whatever. It's not like R5 is ever going to be used for a real top lane counter pick. Hey, would you look at that? PSG actually counterpicked themselves on R5 with K'Sante into Urgot. It doesn't take a genius to realize Urgot wins pretty much every melee matchup in the game, and that you just need to pick something ranged into it. You'd think professional players would be able to understand basic matchup mechanics, but I guess not. Either way, this draft overall was really bad by both teams. Why? Because neither team has an identity. They both just picked 5 random champions and stuck them together. Running quickly through both teams, FlyQuest has strong early mid skirmish with Lucian, strong scaling teamfight with Taliyah and Maokai, and Urgot is kinda just there. PSG has strong early lane bot, hyperscaling mid, and 2 random frontliners that don't really serve a purpose outside of being bullet sponges. Neither of these comps has a goal inside the game. There are no consistent themes or theme counters, just pure brainlessness in draft phase. Moving on to the gameplay portion, I want to take a look at some itemization choices. First, K'Sante built full Thornmail Rush into Jack-Show second. This genuinely made me laugh out loud. What healing are you cutting exactly? It should have just been Steel Caps into Iceborne Gauntlet, and he would have been fine into Urgot. Thornmail can be a good item in certain circumstances, but it's never good as a first rush item, and that goes for Bramble as well. Next is Lethality Callista. I know Gumayusi has success with it, but that's Gumayusi. I'm not a fan of Callista in general, but I'm 100% convinced at this point that building Lethality makes this champ infinitely more useless than a regular on-hit build. Just watch the team fights. Callista doesn't do damage here. Lastly, I counted 6 people in early lane phase that brought biscuits this game. In other games in the series, it was more than 6. This rune is complete useless garbage and should never be taken, period. The majority of the people who bring them don't even use them and end up selling them. It's hilarious that pro players' brains are on such autopilot that they still think that biscuits are a good rune. The last point I want to make in this game is about how PSG played the mid game, specifically the Azir. In Game 1, PSG drafted a really nice comp with good scaling and range, and Mabel was on Azir, where he played well and sidelaned most of the game to farm up and outscale, which Azir is meant to do. This game, however, things completely changed. Going into the game, PSG knows that Fly want to play around strong mid game with Lucian Nami item spikes. So why then, from around 17 minutes onward, are PSG perma A-ramming and fighting into the Lucian? There was a solid 5 minutes plus of just perma group team fighting in mid lane. Also, during this same time, Kalista and Azir were both mid, splitting farm and experience between them for no reason, which is always bad to do. Like, Mabel did it right in Game 1, so what changed in Game 2? He should just be perma in side lane, farming and playing to outscale. Anyways, this was overall one of the worst pro games I've seen in a long time in every phase. Draft, itemization and rune choice, and gameplay execution. And this was only the second game of the entire tournament. Surely, we'll have a lot of pro teams sucking to look forward to. Thanks for watching. See you next time.